So I got involved in Sister Cities last year. I didn't really have a chance to get involved when I was younger, but it became a really integral part of my young professional career and kind of everything beyond. So last year I was able to attend the annual conference in Virginia Beach. And the way that this came about was I was just kind of introduced with this idea to be able to fly over to the East Coast, which I'd never been. And that was just kind of the main draw for me, was to check out a new area, maybe meet some people, and head back with a few notes to hand back to the city of Tacoma. And what actually came out of it was, besides being a great networking opportunity, it became a very important part of my career in developing what I wanted to do in the future. So when I first entered college, I kind of bounced around with ideas of what I wanted to be. I entered as a bio major, I switched over to chemistry, and then I ended up in international business, which is how I actually got introduced to this idea. Now, the cool thing about international business is, in addition to being able to create ties all across the world, you really get to engage with all types of people, which is something that I realized last year at the Sister Cities Conference. There are people that are interested in sports, music, connecting people through all different types of mediums. And I think that that's extremely exciting and it's really valuable for people to look at. So Sister Cities, for me, has really kind of become something where I've been able to utilize my language skills, but also things I've learned through business. So last year, I was invited to take part in a Sister Cities jazz ensemble, and I helped 2 musicians from Suzhou, China, who came to the city of San Antonio to perform. So what we did in the city of San Antonio was we invited 12 musicians from San Antonio Sister Cities, brought them all together, and threw them on stage and had them perform. And I thought it was a true, wonderful display of citizen diplomacy, but also what music can do to bring people together. As a universal language, everybody can understand the emotion and power that can come through a song. And so this was a very important example for me, and something that really kind of showed the power of Sister Cities as a whole. Now, after this experience, I was able to continue some of my travels to China, and this is me on top of the Olympic building, because sports was also an integral part of my career. I was a 4-year collegiate athlete on my school's American football team, and something that we did was we did a sport exchange in Shanghai, China. So what we did is we went down and we played with one of the local semi-professional teams. And through that experience, we were really able to kind of teach and develop the game over there. It's something that's continuously growing, and we thought it was something that was important for us to do. We were able to go over, volunteer at camps, introduce the idea of American football, but just had a really great time.
So, there are a number of ways that you can engage your young professional, next generation people in your local community. A lot of experiences that are life-changing, they start with that single experience. And for Jason, it was being an interpreter. He speaks fluent, perfect Chinese, which is incredible. But it's just seeing him having this one experience with musicians and then having that open up a whole new chapter of his life. A similar thing happened with me back in 1994. I first got involved in Sister Cities just as a high school student. I was just searching for something to do one summer. And if you can't tell, I'm the one on the right. And you can see I'm wearing jean shorts and a fanny pack. Despite my questionable taste in fashion, this was a pivotal moment for me. Most of you in this room have had that single first experience that lit that fire in your belly and in your heart and in your head for Sister Cities. And so this opened up my whole world. It encouraged me to, when I went to college, to study Japanese, which I never would have studied Japanese had I not had this first experience that just opened up my mind. And the best part about living in Japan, I went for 1 year, and 1 year turned into 4 years living in Japan. Because it was an amazing experience, but the best part was because I was so big, they gave me 2 school lunches every day. Really, that helped me stay for years and years. Once you have that first experience, it becomes easier to have the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. And I was teaching in our sister city in Nagaoka, Japan. So it kept the relationship strong. And from there, then you hear about these really exotic places that maybe you'd never think you'd go. Like we had a chance to go to Papua New Guinea, which most people don't even know where that is on the map. If you do a Google search of Papua New Guinea right now, you'll see pictures like this, right? Cannibalism and tribalism. And my experience couldn't have been any more different. I'm the one in the middle. You couldn't know. And from there, that took me to our neighbor to the south. And you realize when we hear about Mexico, especially here in the US, it typically has not the best connotation. When you hear about it in the news, you see pictures like this when people think about Mexico. And my experience was very, very different. So part of our mission, when we go visit these places, is to come back and share pictures like this, and share experiences like this, so people understand that a country is made up really of its people, and it's more than what you see in the movies, what you see on the news, what sells newspapers, right? They say, what's the phrase? If it bleeds, it leads on TV, right? It's a lot of negative stuff. If you're talking about negative stereotypes, this is probably the mother of them all, right? If you ask just about anyone in this country, or in the world, what they think, if you were to imagine Africa, it would be something like this, right? Poverty, hot, hopelessness, despair, and this is in our sister city of Swaziland, and my experience could not have been more different. And the cool thing about this, as a young professional, is that this picture could have been taken in any kitchen, in any house, in any country in the world, right? There's nothing that says this picture of Africa when it comes to bringing people together. And so this is funny because this is where my business started. And this experience 10 years ago, I had the idea to start my own business and become an entrepreneur. Because I was talking with these two young ladies from Swaziland, Eswatini, they just changed the name of the country. And we were talking about HIV and AIDS, because in Swaziland, it has the highest prevalency of HIV and AIDS infection in the world, at about 25% of the population, believe it or not. The average life expectancy is under 40 years old, which is, I was under 40 at that time, and so it really hit home for me. And so we were learning about HIV and AIDS, and these two students were just rattling off statistics about health statistics and HIV, and they were asking me, Carlo, what does HIV and AIDS look like in your home in Fort Worth, Texas? And I had to tell them, I didn't know. I knew more about HIV and AIDS in Swaziland than I did about my own country. So I came home to find out. I talked to my mom about it. This is my mom in Fort Worth, Texas. She's a great cook. And so we decided that, somewhere along in that conversation, we decided that she was such a good cook, we were gonna start a catering business. And we were gonna open a little restaurant. And we called it Z's Cafe after my grandparents, and we thought, we need to do a little more research about HIV and AIDS in Fort Worth. And so we did. We realized if you have HIV and AIDS in Fort Worth or any other city, it's very difficult to find a job, right? On paper, it's very difficult to find a job. So we made it part of our mission to create a social enterprise. We would cook to pay the bills, and we would provide jobs for people that are low income, that have HIV and AIDS. And so we found folks in our community that needed jobs. Some of them had been in prison, some of them had been homeless, some of them had been drug or alcohol addicts. And so we took a chance and we hired them. And our team 10 years ago now has turned into a bustling business. And this all started because of that experience in Africa that we had in our sister city. And the cool things that happened, I had to whittle it down because we were asked to cater at the Super Bowl because our mission was of hiring low-income men and women. We actually were awarded the Small Business of the Year last year in Fort Worth because of the mission, because there are very few people doing this. Millennials respond really well to giving back to the community. Have you ever heard of Tom's Shoes? You buy a pair of Tom's and then they send a pair to someone in another country. That grabs millennials' attention. That grabs young professionals' attention. And I'll finish by showing you the country that I went to a couple years ago that everybody thought I was crazy. I'll show you some pictures and see if you can guess where it might be.
Real.
I went to run a marathon, and I never would have gone had it not been for that first experience in Italy. Believe it or not, this is North Korea. This is my experience in North Korea. Isn't that amazing? You see people smiling, people were supporting us. I was running, and North Koreans were high-fiving this American. You never would imagine that in your wildest dreams, but that's the power of sister cities. That's the power of bringing people together and the rest taking care of itself. So with that, today's panel will be focused on social entrepreneurship. We've got an outstanding group of panelists today, and we can start here with Jeremy. If you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
I am Jeremy Priest. I'm the president and co-founder of Naughty Tie Company. I know I actually see a couple people wearing ties in here today, and I know there might be some issues with attracting new members of a young age, and it's certainly something that I struggle with in the necktie business as well, getting anyone interested in that, so hopefully I can find some similarities and share some anecdotes. About 5 years ago, after I had finished 6 years of military service traveling to Africa, the Middle East, and all over Europe, I was really passionate about economic development and helping refugees succeed and overcome some of the traumatic experiences and the burdens and barriers that they faced. And when I came back to the United States, I studied economic development, volunteered in college with local refugees that had been resettled, and found that they actually had an abundance of skills and faced barriers like overcoming cultural differences or linguistic differences, and were being placed here in Colorado specifically in slaughterhouses or in janitorial jobs. And so I really started to dive into some of the academic literature and studied the data on refugee populations and who was the most disadvantaged and what their unemployment rates were and things like that, and really just started to think about how is it, we already have the government helping with resettlement and providing funds, we have nonprofit partners resettling and finding their home and getting them first friends, but how do we create skills-based employment pathways for those refugees? So 5 years ago, with about $500, not out of a passion for neckties, my business partner and I watched YouTube videos, learned how to sew, to build a custom clothing company that could employ refugees that had sewing skills. So the nonprofit that we were working with actually taught women refugees, specifically one of the most disadvantaged portions of the population, basic sewing skills. 5 years later, we've had as many as 21 employees at a time, doing a few $1 million in sales, mostly around the United States, and really growing this business, not just because of the quality of the product, but because of the nature of the story. Consumers want to purchase products that are ethically made and that have that component to them, whether it's Tom's and with the shoes, or whether it's shirting or experiences. So Naughty Tie is really a practical business to create employment opportunities for those disadvantaged populations, but it's really to create a model that can connect with the government and nonprofits and for-profit to show how we can solve problems through employment for disadvantaged populations, whether it's refugee or otherwise.
So my name is Creighton Moxey. I'm the co-owner of a company called Immerse Bahamas. And what we do is event management and destination planning, but not in a traditional way. So when we host an event or manage destination travel in the Bahamas, we try to give an authentic Bahamian experience. So in the Bahamas, we have about 6 million annual visitors who come to our country, and oftentimes they get the traditional experience of travel where it's leisure. You go there, you go to the hotel, you look at the beach, you say, oh, I was in the Bahamas, the beach is pretty, but you never experience any of the culture. So what we try to do is we focus on the boutique-style hotels, and we try to also incorporate Bahamian culture into our events. So in the past, we've hosted events such as trade missions, bringing people from Hubei, China, for business trade missions to the Bahamas. And within this, we've incorporated elements of our culture such as junkanoo and various things that allow Bahamian vendors to come and be a part of these events and benefit. Because oftentimes, you bring people to your country, they come into the country, they stay at the big hotels, but the locals don't actually benefit from that. So what we try to do is incorporate locals as much as we can into everything we do. And I would say, I'm 22 now, and my passion for this really started in my junior year of college. So it's a company my mom started in 2014. And I just believe in life that you're only going to be here for so long, so your focus should be on making the world a better place before you leave. So you should be looking to do stuff that actually help and benefit more people than just yourself. And I feel like this is something that can help a lot of people in our country. And instead of just helping a specific group of people who might be in a higher niche, who own the big hotels, we try to help everyone in the community. And I also believe it helps the people who are traveling to the country too, because you don't want to just go to a place and just get that life experience where you just stay at the hotel, like I said, and don't leave the property. You want to be able to engage with the people, experience their culture, and get a different perspective. Like Carlo was sharing, when he went to different places within the world, he was able to get a better understanding by actually engaging himself and immersing himself in their culture. And this helps so much with us just being connected throughout the world. As people, I feel like we're better together than we are apart. So this is just my way of trying to bring us together, take the Bahamian culture to the world, and bring other people's culture to us, and just help us connect in different ways.
Thank you. So.
It's always fun being on a panel like this because there's so many people out there doing so many cool things that gives me hope. So my name is Alex Wise. I'm the executive director of a local nonprofit here where we go by that acronym CEDS, Community Enterprise Development Services. A quick bit about me, my background. I spent about 15 years doing international development. I was in Indonesia after the tsunami. I've worked in Afghanistan, South Sudan, and my last job was in Somalia. And I built up an impact investment portfolio there, $6 million. And we were trying to, there was a high unemployment rate, about 76%. And so we were trying to build the local economy through, reduce unemployment, and hopefully reduce piracy and kind of bring other stability factors. That ended when I got married. And the trips to Somalia and checking BBC News to see how my hotel was doing quickly ended my international lifestyle. So I then kind of really had to think, how can I use all of these skills and abilities here locally? And that's when I found CEDS. So we're a nonprofit. We do small business financing for refugees, immigrants, and other underserved communities. We've placed about $3.5 million of capital into the local economy, and 90% of that has gone to refugees and foreign-born immigrants. So we've worked with something like 21 different countries of origins. We worked with Turkmens, Ethiopians, Somalis, Eritreans, Ethiopians, kind of a whole range from all different kind of nooks and crannies of the corner of the world. We provide financing up to $50,000. And through our investment, we've created 450 jobs, and the vast majority of those jobs are created by foreign-born populations, and they're created here locally. So whether that's for other foreign-born populations or American citizens, it doesn't matter. It's a huge economic impact driven by kind of our fellow countrymen, no matter where they come from. And for me, the social mission really is empowering local diverse communities to be in the mainstream economy, so you can actually see and shop at and interact with or be a vendor for or supplier for a whole range of businesses regardless of country of origin.
I feel like the biggest part in getting anyone to tap into anything is tapping into emotions. Like, one of the biggest marketing things we have out here now is emotions. So as far as if you're doing something, capture it. Capture the moment. Get it in a digital format where you can show it to people and you can really engage them in a way where they see, oh, this is happening. You tap into them emotionally and they buy into the process.
Can I ask you, as a follow-up, what specific platforms are effective? Is it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? And y'all pay attention because, younger folks do not use Facebook as much as our parents do, right? So what are some of the most popular platforms to engage the specific people that you're trying to reach?
Well, definitely, as far as for long-form content, like long videos, you want to reach them on YouTube because people would actually sit down and watch that. You'd be surprised. As far as Instagram, you want to do short videos, capturing actual images of what's going on, and short videos. And they also have Instagram TV now, where you can post up to 10-minute long videos. And of course, everyone's on Facebook. Like as far as different generations, everyone's on Facebook, so you want to post your content there too. And Twitter is also a good place to post videos, but there'll be shorter videos, shorter snips that actually grab attention. But the traffic there is actually really great. And a next thing I know that's a really vital tool is LinkedIn. And this will engage more of the business community. So people who are actually looking as professionals to engage in certain activities, they go on there, and the contagiousness of LinkedIn content is really good because you have it where someone can see a post, they like it, and it pops up on someone else's timeline. It's really good for getting a lot of people to actually view what you're doing.
How many of you all in your Sister Cities chapter uses social media? Okay, so about half. How many of you guys use social media? Do you use social media sometimes?
For advertising, but not really actively as a brand.
Okay, let me ask y'all, what's been the single most effective post or your single most successful social media share? How many people saw it, and what was it about that content that resonated with so many people?
Well, do you mean personal or for the company?
For the company. We'll get to personal later. We have plenty of time for that.
So for the company, okay, I said we're Immerse Bahamas, so we focus on authentic behaving experiences. So I actually do videos called Hidden Gems, where I go to different places in the Bahamas and capture the perspective of local entrepreneurs and capture what they're doing and take it to a bigger scale so people can know about them and they raise their visibility. So one of the first videos I actually did was involved this guy named GJ back home. And GJ is a guy who cooks this dish, well, he cooks a lot of seafood, but he specializes he specializes in this dish in the Bahamas called conch. I don't know if anyone's ever ate conch.
I don't know.
You can, yes, okay, good. So in the Bahamas, we cook conch in so many ways, but GJ actually grills conch, and people love it. Like, they literally go crazy for it. But the thing is, a lot of people don't know about GJ. So I went there, filmed GJ's story, and aside from just getting food, I asked GJ, how did you start? He started telling us his story about how, it'll be funny if you see the video, but he was telling us the story about how his grandmother, she basically couldn't move around too much, but she loved to cook. So she used to just tell him, go in the kitchen, get this, cook that, cook this, and that's basically how he learned to cook. So he was telling us about this, and he was just so passionate. It was pretty funny, but it was also passionate. And people actually bought into his story. And when I actually posted the video and tagged him, it just started going viral. Like, we got over 5,000 views on it on Facebook, like, easily. And the next day, he was calling me saying, man, thank you so much. So many people have been coming to my business. The traffic has really picked up. And that's why when I started off talking about this, I brought up emotions. You have to tap into people's emotions. Because before anyone does anything, they have to be really interested in that and buy into that. Once we have understanding their budget, it's kind of easy to organize the event and figure out what we need to do on our part to get it done. Now, as far as the bureaucracy with government, of course, that exists, and it's a challenge with certain things. Like, if you want to bring certain ideas to the table, in most cases, you have a lot of people who just take it and do it themselves because they have the resources to do it. But what I realize is something that helps a lot is working inside out and having people in your corner like sister cities and other outside organizations who can help you with basically organizing stuff. Because what I've realized is when people within the country see you doing something, you could be doing something great, but they would want to bring you down because, oh, I guess they look at you as you're one of them. But when they see someone from the outside really supporting it, it really helps to push things forward.
Good. Next question. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, my question, I have one for you and I have one for you too. My question is, what makes you who you are? Why is it that you can respect the color of my skin? People from Africa, etc., immigrants who are coming in. When I have seen so many images on TV, and I'm born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia, I've lived through Jim Crow. And I've seen these images on TV where Caucasians, European Americans are hating the color of my skin and my kinky hair. So what makes you who you are willing to help people of color so passionately?
Yeah, I mean, where I grew up, I wouldn't even say that racism is a problem. There actually is exclusively Caucasian people. And so we're insulated. I'm from farm country, Ohio. And so we don't even understand what people are talking about sometimes, or we don't see it or feel it. But fortunately and unfortunately, when I was 18, I joined the military and woke up, worked with people from the Philippines, from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Africa, people of descent from all over the world as my shipmates, as my partners in arms. But I also was very fortunate in that I was stationed overseas for 6 straight years, traveling around the Middle East and Africa. And had I never had that experience, I don't know whether or not college alone would have tuned me into the scale of the plight of so many people around the world, and insecurity and lack of economic opportunity, and the issues that face us, that face people all around the world. But it was really working side by side with people that I had never experienced that truly illustrated to me the commonalities of humanity, the basis for human dignity, and that those things did not matter based upon what you believe or where you're from or what color your skin is. But now working with refugees, and part of, after my military experience, I wanted to create a workspace that was international, even though I'm living in Denver. And one of our refugee staff, Mark, fled Congo and lived in Rwanda for 19 years, was the president of his refugee camp, was teaching sewing training classes to women in the camp to make uniforms for the kids in the camp. And when he came, the resettlement agency asked us, do you want to hire him? And we didn't even have a job open. I was like, bring this man to me. I need a mentor. I don't want to hire him to sew. I need him to teach me about leadership and about how he managed a refugee camp for 19 years, how he was able to organize those types of programs, how he has a smile on his face, how he's able to be an incredible father. So I think through those experiences and through the work I'm doing, I have more and more appreciation every single day for the diversity of those in the world, and their ability to actually help me become the person that I need to be to help lead others.
So I'm actually from Virginia Beach.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Guess what? When I was in Norfolk many years ago, we could not go to Virginia Beach.
Oh.
I left Norfolk in 1968. We couldn't go to Norfolk Beach, Virginia Beach, nor Long Beach, but now we can.
Hopefully, our world is changing and we are going to a better place. That's terrible.
Right.
I grew up in a Navy family. I was born in Japan. We lived in the Philippines. My mom grew up, she's American, but grew up kind of bouncing around Europe. My grandfather did a lot of business across Europe. And so kind of growing up, it was kind of 2 factors. It was like just a lot of, very fortunate, but a lot of exposure to travel and other people and other communities. And then on my dad's side, big Catholic family. My grandfather was the welfare commissioner of Philadelphia, and my dad was a Navy SEAL, and he told me, well, so what, you got, you did poorly, raise your grades. I raised my grades, and then he said, well, what have you done for other people? And that was kind of always the end point in our family. We have people who work for local governments and armed forces and nonprofits, and my cousin is a bilingual immigration attorney. So we just had a lot of people, our whole family kind of was oriented around that service culture. And it was just something that was kind of a part of who we are, and this is, I don't know. It's so, I used to work for corporate America, and I quit, and I moved to Mongolia. My father was like, what have you done? But I think what I've learned, maybe kind of with what Jeremy was saying, is that being abroad is so much more intellectually challenging and fun and hard and rewarding, and it's I would never change it. I think it's just such a cool experience to be able to work with so many different types of people.
Okay. And my question to you is, why do you love the Bahamas so much? Why really? And what are your challenges as a black man?
Okay, why do I love the Bahamas so much?
Yeah.
The Bahamas, and I'm not just saying this because I'm from here, it has to be one of the most beautiful places in the world. You can just look at it from the sky, see the water, it's crystal clear, you can look straight. Jamaica, y'all.
They're pretty close.
I think we got this one. We love y'all too. And the people, just so beautiful, the way they interact with each other, so nice and kind. And the food is slamming. So like, I actually went to, so I've been in the US since I was 15. I went to boarding school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And like, I would give it to Tennessee, they can cook like barbecue food, like ribs and stuff like that, but I was missing the food home so much, that and the weather, like I missed it so much. Now, I went to college in Louisiana and the food down there was pretty good, but our food, just the culture, the music, the
He's
people,
in
the
full
weather.
sales mode.
But yes, I definitely love it. And I would say, do you mean the challenges within the Bahamas or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Okay, the challenges, I'll start with the Bahamas because it's a little different there. So in the Bahamas, we have a majority black population, but they don't really run things that go on in the Bahamas. So we actually have a long history of this back in the day, like where we actually had a government that stood primarily for minority, white, like rule in the Bahamas, and that was the thing they were really pushing in the Bahamas. And today now, it's a situation where they've basically replaced the faces with black faces, but they don't really have the interests of the people at heart. So that's a real challenge, trying to get people to understand that. And then when you live in a place that's like our primary income is based on tourism, so we have a lot of people who are still stuck in the mindset of primarily service instead of actually looking at how you can not just like serve and be in a position where you never own, but actually you can serve someone and actually own what you're doing, which is what we're trying to push with Immerse Bahamas, getting to actually shine a light on these boutique style owners and stuff like that. So I would say as a black man in the Bahamas, the challenges are getting people to realize that we can all work together and make something happen, but also getting people to realize that I have your best interests at heart. And you may see a lot of people doing other things and having, they make you seem like they're for you, but they're not for you. So that's a big challenge in the Bahamas. And then in the world, of course, it's a challenge like everywhere you go. Like it's where, like I said, in the Bahamas you have that. I guess our system, we have more systems in place, whereas, I mean, not in place with systems, but in the Bahamas it's more concealed, where you're not gonna feel racism or anything like that in the Bahamas. But when I actually came to when I went to Chattanooga, that was the first time I actually experienced like a lot of stuff like that, where it's kind of like blatant and out there. And it's a different thing because that may actually be easier to deal with because you can actually see what's going on and you can actually see how I actually fix the problem because you can identify the problem. In the Bahamas, we have a lot of people who think life is perfect, we live in sunshine, and everything is perfect, but it's honestly not.
Thank you.
Maxine, thank you for that question. I think the running theme that I heard in all three answers was compassion. And I think that is woven into the DNA of Sister Cities. I think if all the people in our communities thought like we did in celebrating the differences, but finding common ground, I think our world would be in a much different place. So thank you for that question.
One would be actually getting people who are from different communities to come in and actually interact with people so they realize, oh, they're not like how they're portrayed on the news or how I think they are from this different platform. But I think a big factor in all of this is education. Like within systems, a lot of the notions that we actually gain in our mind about other people, they're taught within like things such as school, which is kind of weird. Like I've like coming from another country and actually like attending school in this country, like I've gained a lot of knowledge, but I've also gained a lot of perspective to see how certain thought patterns are actually passed through the educational system. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, wow, you're actually teaching that? But to other people, it's like, oh, this is the norm, like they just expect it to happen. So I feel like there needs to be like a conscious effort for teachers to actually have a mindset that's more global and more understanding of different groups inside their community, and they're the ones who are touching the children every day and talking to them every day, so they imprint these ideas on their mind.
I wish there was a large-scale solution for this, short of like re-education of a lot of people or something, but our viewpoint is let's meet them where they are, let's provide them something within the course of their needs, and then let's engage with them in a conversation about where a product is made, who makes it, what would make it ethical, what are the problems facing refugees, why we employ them in our local community, and why all of that is important. And so we sort of backdoor it by leading with a strong product and then using the brand narrative and engaging with them in conversation and dialogue. And I think it's a little bit more subtle, and they don't know. I think a lot of people are naive, like myself in my younger years, to what problems even exist out there. And it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't know why they should care. They don't really know what the nature of the problem is. And so I think that's one of the most powerful lessons that the business community is learning, is that they actually can be that force for change and that voice of reason. Where they were previously demonized, they now have a responsibility to create meaning for their staff in the work that they do and delivering value, but also standing up for the larger values of a global, interconnected world.